Hi there Ford van owners. Today on your 2006 Ford van we're going to be installing Air Lift's WirelessONE Compressor system. This is what your compressor is going to look like when it's installed. It securely mounts to your frame. Having a compressor system on board makes it easy to adjust your pressures when you have a varying amount of load in your vehicle. Or just depending on how long of a trip we want to go on. Sometimes you take more supplies with you than you do for other trips. Those supplies add up and all that extra weight could require you to have to increase the pressure in your airbag system. Likewise, if you have less load in it, you may need to lower the pressure. Typically, you would have to go to a gas station or some filling station where you could have access to an air supply so you could make those adjustments. You no longer need to do that with this system because you can do it with the touch of a button using the included remote. In addition to the included remote, you can also use the app that you can download for your Android or iOS device. Here you can adjust the pressure. The remote can do all the things that your app can do, but the app has a much cleaner layout that is easier and more user-friendly, and you always have your phone on you. So that way you know you've got an easy way to adjust it every time, no matter where you're at. You have a total of 3 presets. Those will be on your app here. Preset 1 is our single dot. It comes set to 5 pounds from the factory, and this is your typical unloaded setting. Preset 2 is set at 20 pounds from the factory. And you have a third preset by using both buttons. Having presets are nice. One example that you would use it for is you have your preset for when you're traveling to your destination, which could be your 20 pounds. And once you've got to your destination, you've unloaded all of your camping gear and got everything set up, your vehicle is now unloaded and you can lower it back down with a quick press of a button without having to adjust it manually. If you did want to adjust it manually, you have up and down arrows and you simply press on those to increase or decrease to your desired pressure. The compressor automatically increases or decreases the pressure to match what you have selected on your remote or your app. This is my personal favorite compressor system. It's the easiest to install due to all of its components being pre-mounted to the bracket you see here. So you simply have to mount this bracket onto your vehicle and then hook up your wiring and your hoses. This one is so simple, anybody can do it. We'll begin our installation underneath the vehicle along the frame, looking for an appropriate location to mount our compressor system. This is going to vary depending on the components you have installed on your van. We're working on one that's built up like a motor home, so we do have a lot of components down the side of the frame rail, keeping us from mounting it there. We've decided to mount it on one of the cross beams on the bottom side that's supporting our motorhome structure. We simply just drilled out some holes using a 3/8 drill bit and then use the included hardware to mount it at the top. You don't have to mount it at the top. You can mount it really wherever you'd like. There are several mounting locations all over the bracket and you can choose the best place for you. We chose to drill to get it mounted, but it also comes with some no drill options. There is a U-bolt that comes with it and you can use the U-bolt to clamp it around the frame. We'll now hook up our air line. You already want to have your airbags installed. We recommend Air Lift's Load Lift 5000 air helper springs, and that's what we currently have installed. Before you hook up your airline to your airbags, you want to make sure you drain all the air out of the airbags that you currently have installed. You can then take your airline and route it from your compressor system here back to your airbags. I've already got the airline hooked up to our compressor here, but it's going to hook up the same way to your airbags as well as the T-fittings that come in the kit. I'll show you how to hook it up back there. We routed our airline back along the frame until we got to where our driver's side airbag is here. Here we disconnected the airline that was going to the airbag. That's actually this line right here. This goes back to our manual inflation valve here. We used one of the T-fittings that comes from the kit and we plugged that into one side. The other side of our T-fitting here is going up to our compressor, and the middle of our T-fitting here comes out and it goes to another T-fitting. This T-fitting here has one side that's going over to our passenger side airbag, and then we have our last end here that's going to go over to our driver's side airbag here. And this is the same type of fitting that's on all of your components. So for all of your airline, you simply just push it in. It's a quick connect and it locks it in place. I like to push it in and out to make sure it's fully seated. You'll just repeat that when routing all of your airline. When cutting your airline, you want to make sure that you use airline cutting tools. You can pick some up here at eTrailer.com. They're specifically designed to cut it square and straight and smooth, so that way they'll seal properly in your quick connect fittings. Now we'll work on our electrical connections. Take the harness that runs in your kit, you can go ahead and plug that into your compressor here. It only has one connector on it, and it only fits on here one way. So push it until it clicks. The Air Lift logo here is the front. The connector has a quick release tab on it, and that's going to be on the opposite side of our Air Lift logo when it's plugged in. Off of that, you're going to have several wires. The red, black, and pink we're going to be routing towards the front to our engine compartment. We're going to focus on the red and white wire now. This is the wire that connects to your air compressor. So we're simply going to take this back. We're going to hook it to the red wire here. The end of our air compressor has a spade terminal that's on it. We're going to cut that off. Then we're going to strip back the red wire as well as the red and white wire from our harness. We're going to use the included heat shrink butt connector to connect these two together. Next, we'll attach the compressor's ground wire circuit. This ground wire can be connected to your mounting hardware. This is particularly useful if you're using self-tapping screws that come with the kit. Since we didn't use self-tapping screws and drilled our own hose, we're going to use the self-tapping screws that come in the kit to mount this wire separately. We're going to use a 10mm socket, and we're just going to go right into the frame here to get it grounded. We'll now shrink down our butt connector that we placed on here. The rest of our wiring we're going to route up towards our engine compartment. To get up to the engine compartment, I recommend just following your frame rail and your factory wiring along the way, zip tying it to keep it in place. When routing your wiring, you want to make sure that you avoid any moving objects such as your steering and suspension, and any excessively hot objects such as your exhaust. To get it up into your engine compartment, I recommend using a fish wire. A fish wire can be anything that's slightly rigid but can still be flexed. A coat hanger works very well as a fish wire, as you can bend it and feed it down from your engine compartment up top, then use some electrical tape to connect to the wiring down below, and then just pull the coat hanger back up, and now you've got your wiring. In our engine compartment, we'll hook up our black, red, and pink wires. The pink wire is going to go to your ignition source. So this is going to be a source that only has voltage on it when the key is in the on or run position. We're going to be using this 20-amp fuse located here on our underhood fuse box. The fuse box is located on the driver's side under the hood. This fuse is only powered when the key is on. So we're going to remove this fuse, and we're going to use a fuse tap in order to tap into it without having to splice into any of our wiring. You can pick up a fuse tap like this here at eTrailer.com. Now, if you don't feel like purchasing a fuse tap, you can tap into any wire that is hot when the key is in run, but I highly recommend this so you don't have to splice or potentially cause damage to any of your wiring. After you remove the fuse, you'll want to insert it in the bottom set on your fuse tap. In the top set, we're going to place a 10-amp fuse. The 10-amp fuse comes with your fuse tap. We'll then insert it. We want to make sure we insert it in this position so the wire is coming out towards the front of the vehicle. We've cut the wire to length and we stripped back our pink wire. We'll then take the butt connector that's pre-attached to your fuse tap, slide our pink wire into it, and crimp it down. You can now reinstall the fuse cover. You may have to modify the fuse cover in order for it to fit properly. Next, we'll attach our power and ground. We're going to start with ground, which is our black wire. There's a ground stud located here towards the center of the vehicle, slightly on the passenger side. That's where we're going to make our connection. So we're going to cut it to length, take our black wire, strip it back, and attach one of the ring terminals that comes in your kit to the black wire. We'll then use an 8mm socket to remove the bolt for our ground here. Take our ground wire, we're going to slide it through, and we're just going to reinstall that bolt. Next, we'll hook up our power wire. We're going to use the fuse harness that comes in the kit to make this connection. We'll start by cutting the loop on our harness in half and stripping back both ends. One end is going to attach to a yellow ring terminal. The other end is going to attach into a heat shrink butt connector. Use a 10mm socket on our battery positive post to remove the nut. Slide the ring terminal from our fuse harness onto the stud and then reinstall the nut. We'll then take our red wire that we had routed to the engine compartment. We're going to trim it back, then strip it back, and this will connect to the other end of the butt connector coming off of our harness. We'll then use our heat gun to shrink that down. All that's left now is to install your fuse. I highly recommend that you download the app on your phone before inserting the fuse, as that's when it starts its pairing procedure when the fuse is inserted. So I've already got the app downloaded and I've got it opened up. We're going to go ahead and insert the fuse into our harness, and that should put it into pair mode where we can connect to it with our app. I'm going to go ahead and just restart the app real quick. Make sure that your Bluetooth is turned on. Once it recognizes the device, simply select it, tell it to go ahead and pair. It'll now connect to our device. After it's connected, it may prompt you to update the firmware. Go ahead and select Update and tell it to start. It'll now download the update and install it right from your phone. Once it's finished updating, it'll return you to the dashboard here, where you can choose the pressure you want for your compressor system, using your app on your phone, or you can use the included remote. And that completes our installation of Air Lift's WirelessONE compressor system on your 2006 Ford van.